Hello, and welcome to another episode of Perfect Pairings. My name is Gayan. I am a knitting pattern tech editor based in Melbourne, Australia, and this is my podcast where I generally will interview different participants in the Australian wool industry, and then sometimes I will talk to you about my knits and what I'm making. And that's what this episode is going to be today. But before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this episode is recorded, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. There's a lot to get through today, and I want to keep it short and sharp if I can. I've had a bit of a delay in recording this episode because a lot has happened. I had some tech difficulties with my computer when I got back from a holiday, and then life just took off from there. I think we hit the ground running when we got back, and it's just been one thing after another. My office was a mess, so I've decided to rearrange it, and I have finally gotten it into a state where I can sit down and relax in it. So that's been fantastic. Have you ever had a space that's just so chaotic you can't even, I was like, I couldn't even move in here. There was just yarn everywhere, and now I've got some really good storage options, or storage solutions really, coming, and I'm just really happy about that. It will be much calmer in here, much more organized. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So I do want to talk to you all about the yarn shops that I visited in Japan and my acquisitions, and I will get to that. But I'm going to share a finished object today, and I also have a whip that I am in love with, and I want to share that with you too. But I've got admin because this is so fun. I was asked to co-host the Alma Cal, which is being run by Susanna Kaartinen of Sanna & Co, with Karina from Louie and Lola Yarns and Sarah from Bombed Yarns. The Alma Cal is running until November, so there's plenty of time to join in. The sweater knits up really quickly. The vest is a beautiful child's pattern, so it's not too involved, or it is fingering weight, but it's not that big, so you'll have plenty of time to knit it, and the design is beautiful. I love it. I made one in Pinot that Susanna had used as a sample in or at the Australian Sheep and Wool Show, so you may have seen it there, and I love it. It is, I kind of wish I had it today because it's pretty cool here in Melbourne, and as you can see, I'm pretty rugged up. Yeah, we'll have a few more cold days, I think, but spring is really on the way. Anyway, I have been asked by Susanna and Karina and Sarah to co-host the Cal. Now, Susanna, as you probably know if you are a longtime viewer, is from Sanna & Co. She has amazing designs, and we've hosted Cals for her before. So it's super exciting to be able to collaborate again. And this time we're joined not only by Karina from Louie and Lola Yarns, we'll also have Sarah from Bombed Yarns, another Tasmanian indie dyer who makes beautiful yarns. Now, the Alma Cal is to knit either the Alma sweater or the Alma vest, and the Cal is running until November this year, so there's plenty of time. The sweater knits up super quick. The color work is not very advanced. It is probably not the first sweater project, but it's it was, I think, my first real stranded colorwork garment, and the vest is for children, so it's not a huge project. I know you can do it. So you can check out the kits that both Karina and Sarah from that they both have online, and pick yourself up a kit or stash dive It uses two colors, a main color and then a contrast color. But for the contrast color, you can use one color, two colors, three colors, however many colors you really want. So there's lots of opportunity to play with that. And the pattern is fun. There's some new techniques that you might not have tried before. So I encourage you to do that, because one of the great things about our knitting hobby is that we get to learn new techniques and new ways of doing things that helps our neuroplasticity as well. So treat your brain to some new skills and join in the fun. There will be some Zoom knit sessions, and you can get the link to those over in the Ravelry group. Is anything else on the cow? Vest, sweater, Zoom knit parties. The last thing is that I have a bit of an Alma adventure myself. One thing that tech editors can do as an additional skill is some pattern writing. So I am developing a prototype for the Alma sock pattern. And it's super exciting because, as you know, I've been obsessed with knitting socks, and the pattern really lends itself to a colorwork sock project. So that is in the works and will hopefully be coming out. Maybe not in time for the cow, but soon enough. And it's been a really fun but challenging project to me. I've put in quite a bit of time knitting, and I'm learning a lot. Let's just say that. And have a whole new perspective and appreciation for designers who come up with sweater patterns but then have to knit it. And then you could theoretically spend all of this time knitting something and it just doesn't work out. And then all of that time that you've spent is, well, we'll just put it into the file as learning and experience. So that's been what's going on with me and that, but it's really a fun and exciting project that I get to work on. So more on that soon. And speaking of designs, you'll see behind me another design. That this one is by my friend Anna over at Stitchcraft and Wizardry, and it will be coming out soon. And I'm so excited about this one because it has a really interesting construction. I don't think it has a name yet. No, I don't think it has a name yet, but be on the lookout for it because it is going to be so fun to knit, I think. I might need one. Okay, where are we now? Let's move on to finished objects. My first finished object is, ta-da, socks, and I finished both of them. It's super exciting because I was able to test knit these patterns, test knit this pattern for my friend Kath Martin, who is the Mindful Melbourne maker. She has a really large following on Instagram, so follow her there or on YouTube. Check out her podcast. It's really fun. Her makes are beautiful, and she has some really fantastic ideas for Advent projects, and Advent season is coming up, so get ready. Anyway, this pattern is a 4-ply weight sock yarn. I've knit mine in half-baked hand-dyed self-striping yarn in the colorway Caper with a K. And this is super fun yarn, and the pattern itself, because of the chevrons here, really lends itself to self-striping. I've done the legal heel option. Kath puts into all of her Australian City sock patterns options for heels. So sometimes there's a heel flap and gusset. The legal heel, she's done afterthought heel as well. So this one is beautiful. It's got the double chevron, so there's a chevron 2 chevrons in the front, as well as the optional one in the back, which I've done a pretty quick knit. And what was really good about this for me is that I was able to memorize the pattern and knit these while I was on the tram. So effectively knit the majority of both of these socks during my commuting time, which was a great use of time, I think. They really, oh, I'll have to sew that in, sew that end in. But yeah, really loving socks at the moment. Kath has come out with some fantastic sock patterns lately, and I'm looking forward to knitting some more. Okay, so whips. I've been spamming you on Instagram about this whip. I cannot put it down. I love it, love it. It is the first time I have worked with 2 strands of yarn together in a garment, and it is knitting up the most amazing fabric. So here it is. Here's the front. Look at this. Trying to make sure I'm showing it to you. I'll stand up. It is the Cloudwatching sweater by SosuKnits, Susanna Summers. And it is incredible. It has these brioche cuffs, this brioche textured body. I suppose this is reverse stockinette sleeves. This brioche details on the side, and this hem, I cannot, it was fiddly to knit, but it has come out so beautifully. I want to finish this sweater so that I can actually wear it before it gets too warm here in Melbourne. The yarn. This yarn I've had in my stash for, well, the main color yarn I've had in my stash for probably 3 years now, so it's pretty deep stash for me. And it is Jasper Yak by Spinning Yarns and Weaving Tales. It's 100% yak. The color is sandstone. So here's a ball of it. It's a beautiful neutral. That's pretty much coming out true to color there. It's just got these kind of gray undertones, but it is that lovely kind of tan khaki color. It's really soft, but it's also lace weight. So I bought it originally for another project, but then when this sweater, I don't know if it came out or whether when I found it, I thought, ooh, that would make a really good yarn to use for this project. And then I had to find some fluff to go with it. And that's when I found this at the Australian Sheep and Wool Show, I think 3 years ago. So what's that, 2020, 2021? I think, did they have it in 2021? Maybe 2022? 2022. It is Owl of Athena Fiber Arts. What did I do with it? It's 70, oh, Ariadne is the name of the base. And it's 74% baby Surrey alpaca and 26% mulberry silk. The colorway is Parnassus Major, and it is beautiful. It's got all of these pinks, peaches, and that same kind of brown. So together they're knitting up. Just the color is spectacular. There has been no pooling at all. It's just made an incredible marl that that I love, and I think that makes such a big difference when you're doing your projects. If you love the color, it's just like there was no sleeve island for me. I dove right into the sleeves. and it was, and it has been, just a really fabulous project to knit on. It was the only knitting that I brought with me when I went to Japan, so it did get a lot of love on that trip, especially the, what was it, 8, 9, 10 hours that we were in transit on the first day for our flights. So it's just, look at this. So soft, so light. It's going to be so warm. And that will definitely be done by the next time I record an episode. Famous last words, right? Anyway, the Cloudwatching sweater by SosuKnits. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about my trip to Japan and all of the yarn shops that I got to visit, because I wouldn't say I made it a priority, but there was a pointed list of places that I wanted to get to while we were away. So we started our trip in Tokyo, and there were a few shops that that we hit there. The first is Amimono Spin, which is located in the Shibuya area. It's not far from the Shibuya crossing, probably about a 10-minute walk. The funny thing is that Google Maps was really weird and didn't always point you in the right direction. So when we tried to walk to some of these shops, we ended up walking in the wrong direction or down the wrong street, but then we always figured it out in the end and tried to not be in a rush to get to or see a lot of the things, and it was just a really chilled holiday. So our first stop was this Amimono Spin. So Amimono Spin is a little bit off the tourist track. You have to walk out of the main Shibuya area and then down this street, and you wouldn't think that there would be a yarn shop there, but trust me, there it is. You walk in and they just have this beautiful wall of yarn in, it's displayed a little bit on the diagonal, but the signs are really clear. They were in English, although the person who was working at this shop didn't speak English. It wasn't really a problem at all. And I bought this beautiful dark gray alpaca. It's a light fingering weight yarn, and that is the color there. I bought this yarn. I bought enough to actually hold with these other skeins that were gifted to me by Jane Ball from Mindful Making. So these three, they're falling everywhere. Where'd they go? That's another one. Here, these three will go and be held with this one also tomorrow and make a striped t-shirt. And I think that is going to be amazing. Colors. Love this. This yarn is so soft, and it's going to be light, so I'll be able to wear it even if it's a bit warm. And the yarn is Soup. The colorway, I have no idea. It's there's not a lot of information on the tag. I will, though, pretty sure they have a website and I can link to it, but it is beautiful. So that was what I got from Amimono Spin. I also got, influenced by my friend Kath, these darning needles that have, oh, there you go, you can kind of see it there. They're bent at the tips, and these have different kind of width of needle, and that is something that's been kind of missing out of my Notions kit. So I was really happy to pick these up as well. So yes, oh, this wool, this yarn is Holst Coast. That's merino and cotton, and I think it's going to make just the best t-shirt. So I'm super excited to be casting that on, maybe a bit closer to Christmas, I think, but definitely I want to prioritize that this year. So the second shop we went to was absolutely gorgeous. It's called Alma, and their main headquarters or shop is in a suburb called Ebisu, which I understand is a big area for expats. We found quite a large concentration of French patisseries and Spanish tapas bars in that neighborhood. I have a friend that lives in Tokyo and she was giving me the information about it. So Alma was absolutely gorgeous, minimalist decor. The yarn was beautifully presented. They had also some gorgeous fabrics, a big rack of samples, and basically everything that you would want in your local yarn shop. Again, it was a little bit of a walk from the train station, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, which at any other time of the year would have been fine. It was when we were there in July. It was that day, I think, about 36 degrees and like top humidity. So we're pretty hot. And while it wasn't the best weather for shopping for wool, I came out with this, which is their Genmu base. It's 100% merino wool. It is 151 meters for 50 grams, so it's a solid sport weight. So it's about 302 meters per 100 grams. But it has this kink to it and loft, which I hope you can see there, yes. And that is the color. It is that luminescent and beautiful blue, kind of teal color. And I have a sweater quantity of this. So I reckon maybe something Sari Nordland with all that texture. It will be just absolutely beautiful. I'm just thinking, what's the gauge they say? 19 to 21 stitches, 27 to 30 rows. If you have any good sport weight pattern ideas, I'd love to hear them. Please put it in the comments. But that will be getting on my needles at some point. It's fluffy, it's lofty. I think that's going to knit up beautifully. All right. Now, the third yarn shop that we went to that day, our first day, I suppose I can't say I didn't make it a priority when I went to all three of these places on the first day. Anyway, from Ebisu, we headed over to Shinjuku, which also has a huge train station, just like Shibuya, and that's where the 3D cat billboard is, and that was really fun to see in person. And not far from there, maybe just a block or so down the street, is a multi-level craft store called Okadaya. And I went to Okadaya because there were lots of videos in my feed about it and about how it was an entire department store floor of yarn. It wasn't as big as I had thought it would be. There were a lot of commercially produced yarns there. They had some Noro, but they didn't have a lot of Noro. I didn't end up getting anything there because I basically had blown my yarn budget at Alma, but that's all right. It was fun to go to. They had quite a bit of sock yarn, which I thought was nice. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. So from the first day, in terms of learnings, The one thing, I had presumed that there would be more English speaking than there was, so we just relied mostly on Google Translate. That was really helpful to use. So if I had any questions, I just asked through that, and yeah, we got by. It was great. It was great. So that was all of the yarn shops that we hit in Tokyo. We did a lot of other beautiful things, galleries, museums, gardens, and had heaps of fun, beautiful food. Anyway, after a few days in Tokyo, we hopped on the Shinkansen and went out to Kanazawa, which is, I think, about 4 hours roughly from Tokyo, on the northern side of Honshu, and the area is known for green tea. So of course I've brought back some beautiful tea that I'm having now. It's a type called Hojicha, which is a toasted green tea, and it just has this really distinct scent and taste. It's very strong, grassy-like, and I'm really enjoying it. Now, Kanazawa doesn't have its own yarn shop, but in 2 of the department stores in Kanazawa, they have an entire section devoted to crafts. So it's not only yarn, but other crafts. So lots of fabrics and notions for sewing, cross-stitch, embroidery, all sorts of things. So I had a lot of fun just wandering through that department and looking at other yarns. And the department stores generally carried Dorama brand yarns, so the ones I had already seen in Ebisu. So there wasn't really much more of a selection that I had to choose from. It was kind of like, well, I've already bought that yarn. So that was good for my yarn budget. But it was really interesting to me to see craft prioritized in a department store. So it would be like if you went to Meijer and instead of going to the Mecca kiosk, you would go to, you know, a Rowan kiosk or some other kind of yarn brands. They did have more than one line of yarn, but it was just really interesting to see the yarn and crafts in that light. So from Kanazawa, Kanazawa has a beautiful castle if you have the opportunity to go there. It has been rebuilt partially, or maybe it's been rebuilt completely from the inside, but in the traditional Edo style of architecture. So there's very few nails, lots of joinery, and it is very impressive from an architectural standpoint. So I can highly recommend that. And the garden next to it is beautiful as well. There's an incredible modern art museum in Kanazawa that we went to in addition to that. So there was lots to do there, and we had a pretty packed, it was three days. But then we traveled down to Kyoto. So it's a bit, I suppose that's southwest of Kanazawa. And Kyoto is, I think probably, can I say, the craft capital of Japan. There's so many beautiful handcrafts, pottery, art galleries. We stayed in an art gallery hotel. That was really cool. And we went to a bunch of yarn shops. Because, right? The first one that we went to was called Nomura Tailor, and it's in the main shopping kind of district of Kyoto, and we purchased some fabric there for my mother-in-law, and she's got that already, so that's no, I'm not ruining any surprises there. But they also had Dorama yarn, and I was able to get a couple of skeins that I had missed out on that I regretted. I often get regret when I really want something but don't get it. But I picked up these sock yarns. Now that pink one is blowing out, but it is very neon. Let's see if that's not coming out as it really is. It's much more, if I can, you can see this color here where that's coming up. That's the color it is, but it's an incredible pink. But it's their standard stock yarn. It's a superwash Spanish merino, and so it's 80% merino, 20% nylon, and 100% gorgeous colors. Again, I can think about some colorwork socks or some colored cuffs. I've got 2 of the blue, 1 of the pink, definitely for heels, toes, cuffs, body of the sock, and I think that will be really fun. And I'll pop that in my stash and wait for the perfect project for that. So we had so much fun in Kyoto, doing lots of things. We took a sake masterclass, so learned heaps about sake. We went to lots of different temples. We did the bamboo forest, and on our last day, there were 2 yarn shops that I really wanted to go to. Both of them were near kind of like major historical sites that both my husband and I wanted to see, so we made a fun day of it. So we first went out to Kinkaguchi, which is the Golden Temple, and we saw that. And then about a 20-minute bus ride from Kinkaguchi is a shop called Ito Kobako. And they have a lot of yarns that are spun, I think, by Hamanaka, which is a big commercial spinner in Japan. When I was there, I asked about yarns or wool that was coming directly from Japan, where they're sheep or locally produced yarns. And what I learned was that a lot of the wool is sourced from New Zealand, but then spun in Japan and then sold as kind of quote unquote made in Japan type yarn, which is fine. I mean, New Zealand has beautiful wool, so why not? And Japan, I think, has probably more limited space in terms of, well, maybe not. Japan and New Zealand, I'd have to do a comparison of the land mass. But what I can say is that I was in each of the cities that we went to, Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, I was a little bit overwhelmed, maybe less so in Kyoto. Kyoto was a bit smaller, but overwhelmed by the sheer size. And when I did some research, Tokyo actually has a larger population than, or the same population as the entire country of Australia. And Osaka, which is slightly smaller than Tokyo, but it's still in the top, one of the top 10, I think, largest cities in the world. So Osaka basically has the population of 2.25 New York cities. And that was just amazing to me, just mind-blowing. Anyway, back to Kyoto and Ito Kobako. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes so I can try and pronounce that correctly. This was also off the beaten track, like make a left, make a right, make a left, make a right. And you also wouldn't know, unless you were really looking for it, that it was a yarn shop. But it was so cute. And you walked in and they had a little stand for you to take off your shoes and put on slippers to enter the shop. And so there we went. So many beautiful, colorful samples, beautiful, colorful yarns. Really spoilt for choice there. But I found, and because I've been so sock obsessed, I found, of course, some more sock yarn. And this was called Wraps, W-R-A-P-C-K-S, you try and say it. And that is the color. How fun. Curious to knit up a vanilla sock and see how that see how it comes out, if it's going to be self-striping or diagonal or how it's going to be patterned. But it's in an 80-gram hank or an 80-gram skein, so I bought a little one to match to do the heels, toes, and cuffs, and I think that will be a really fun combination. So when I asked about their own yarn, the woman who was working at the shop showed me a few really fun, colorful yarns, and I picked out this one. It's coming out a bit, not as vibrant maybe as the actual skein, but it is so fun. Like, this bit's a bit more purple in real life. And I've got two of these. I think they're pretty much a fingering weight, maybe a sport weight, but I thought I would do some little mitts because I think those colors, and it looks like a single spun, so it wouldn't be the best for socks, but could do bed socks if I'm still on my sock kick. But I've never made mitts, and I have, my friend Michelle made some this year, and I thought, well, that'd be a really fun project, and maybe something like a palette cleansing project in between some bigger projects. And yeah, I think that will be really, those will be really pretty and fun and very bright, so if I won't lose them, right? If I drop one, I'll definitely see it. Just thinking about the practicalities of mitts. Anyway, that was my purchase from Ito Kobako. Again, they're online as well, so you can find that. And it was close to Niji Palace, which was beautiful and had the most beautiful gate I think I've seen in Japan. That might be. The palace itself was closed, but we got to go in and walk around the grounds, and that was, it was lovely. It was lovely, and close to the yarn shops. Sorry, that was where we went after Ito Kobako because it was close to, drumroll, Walnut. Walnut, Kyoto. I tried to go to Walnut in Tokyo, but the day that we had available to go there, because it was about a 45-minute train ride from where we were staying, this is why Tokyo, the size of Tokyo, just blew my mind, it wasn't open. So I don't think it's open on Sundays or Mondays, and then on Tuesdays it doesn't open until 11 o'clock, and our train was earlier in the day. I just didn't work out because I had wanted to go there, but then I knew they had the one in Kyoto as well, so I thought we'll just go there. And it was overwhelmingly beautiful, to the point where I was just like, whoa, I can't even, like, I don't know, maybe my blood sugar was low or something, but I did manage to get a few things. I got, maybe I should back up a step. The trip that we took was maybe not necessarily for, but during the trip I had a birthday. So this skein, which is called Birthday Cake, well, it's a sock set really, and I love it. This is what I got. Look at the neon. Sorry, it's blowing out a bit. Pinks, and it's just so pretty, so happy. I love this kind of fairy bread type yarn. I would probably knit on it all the time if I didn't have so many other yarns. I just can't pass it up, and because it was my birthday, I picked this up. It's actually, I think, Walnut's 10th birthday as well, because they had these really cute, where are they? Here they are. These really cute stitch markers to celebrate their birthday. There's one of them, little yarn ball. Another little skein of yarn there. Different shapes, different sizes. So cute. Loved these. Picked those up. I could have probably spent a mortgage payment there. They had so many beautiful, a lot of the European brands there as well that we don't often see in real life. And just a beautiful space. It is up a flight of stairs. Would you know it was there? No, it was actually also one of those kind of take a left, take a right, take a left, take a right. We needed Google Maps to get there. Anyway. So those are the 3 that I went to. There's also a 4th yarn shop there in Kyoto that's I found while we were there, but then discovered it was only open on the weekends and we weren't there on the weekend. And I think it's called Huey or Hero. I'll try to find it if I can and put it in the description box. So then off we went to Osaka, and Osaka had 2 yarn shops that I had my eye on. The first one was Eliel, and like I mentioned, the cities are huge, so from where we were staying we would have to get on a train, go about 20 minutes I think by train, and then a little bit of a walk. And the day that I had thought to do that, we went to Himeji Castle. So Himeji is about 45 minutes on the Shinkansen from Osaka, headed south. And again, it was a beautiful castle that's been redone, and castle gardens. And we took a tour, and the tour went a little bit longer than I had anticipated. And I really wanted to see the gardens, and we ended up just moving our train reservation, but that meant I wasn't back in time to get to Eliel before they closed. That's okay. I've had so many beautiful purchases. But there was another yarn shop that was open late. So I found it like through sheer determination. It's called Masuzakiya, and it's in the popular Namba region of Osaka, which is a very busy shopping area, but it is, oh my god, stocked. So much yarn in this place. So the Namba station is massive, but thankfully they have some maps occasionally in the train station to kind of point you in the right direction. Masuzakiya is out of exit E9, so that gives you an idea of how many exits are in this train station. They go from A to E, and I think from 1 to 10. So there you go. So you go around, follow the maps, get out on, we tried to go out on E9. E9 was unfortunately closed. So we ended up going out, I can't remember if it was E10 or E8, and getting lost because Google Maps took us in the wrong direction. Turned around, found it, and whoa. Super friendly. So they were the friendliest shop. They are on Instagram, so I followed them. They followed me. It was really fun. And they had an incredible selection. If you are into Noro, they have literally every Noro. They had a lot of what do they call it? Kind of like the fun yarn. So something like sequins or feathers or anything kind of like that. I'm pretty sure there's a word for it that I can't for the life of me think of right now. They had cashmere, and I was so tempted to get the cashmere yarn, but I didn't because I'd already bought a sweater quantity of Genmu and lots of other yarn, so I was just conscious of my yarn spend, even though it was my birthday. And I also really wanted to try some other like super distinctive Japanese yarn. There's a brand called Puppy that I researched before I left. And Puppy has its own shop in Tokyo, but I didn't have a chance to go out to the Puppy shop. But I found their cotton yarn in denim, in these denim colorways, and I found this beautiful teal blue. Oh yeah, and that is the color, and it is fabulous. So there's the label. It's 135 meters for 40 grams, so I'm thinking to knit that up as a fingering weight. And I'm going to make a t-shirt. I've got a t-shirt quantity. I'm thinking to make a single colored gum nut t-shirt, so using my friend Jane's design as a base, but just do a single color and not put the gum nuts in, because I just love that shape, and Jane's patterns fit really well. So that is destined to be a t-shirt. But I couldn't leave Japan without getting some Noro, right? Like, anyway, so I picked out a couple of sock skeins. So this is the first one, and I love these. Mustards, purples, and they all change color. Look, there's some blue in there. So this is going to be a really fun adventure knit. Again, it might just lend itself to a vanilla sock, and that's okay, because as I found out, that's fantastic tram knitting for me. And these are, hold on, 420 meters per 100 grams, and it's 70% wool, 30% polyamide. This one, it's called the Kyoto sock yarn. It's a bit rustic, but I think that will just make the socks more durable. Because there's a bit more than 400 meters, I might knit it on a bit of a smaller needle, maybe a 2 instead of a 2.25, just because I'm a really loose knitter. But then I had my husband pick out a skein, and so I can make some socks for him, and this is the one that he picked out, and I love it. The grays, there's some camel colored, like tan in there too, and then the pink. These are going to be really fun and keep his feet very toasty, because he gets very, very cold feet in the wintertime. So these will be really fun, small projects that I can work on. Even in the summer, they won't be too hot. I don't mind knitting with wool, even in the summer. Oh, I can't wait. I actually kind of want to go cast these on. I think I'll have to wait though. There's lots of other projects I've got on the hop. So that was yarn shopping in Japan. So the links will be down there if you're going to Japan. I know it's been very popular for Australian tourists to go, and I hope that my research helps you to kind of target the types of shops that you want to hit while you're on holiday. Now, I think that's it for me and for this episode. So if you've liked the episode, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps my channel get exposure and momentum, which will hopefully bring more interest and exposure to all of the people that I've interviewed so far and the interviews that I have planned and coming up. So thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, happy knitting!